That film really changed it for everybody dramatically. It changed how people saw male strippers.
Now I'm in the game, I was on the bench. First I was renting, now I'm collecting rent. First it with the Beamer, now I want the Benz. Spending all the bag like here I go again. Outside says chirp, now the camera phone. Told you I'ma make, keep the channels on. Why you acting different when the camera's on? Why you acting different like your paper long? 8-day wake up and I thank God. Bad decision got you wishing you could say nah. My city gritty, you could get hit any day now.
If you didn't know, there's been a major shift in the way male strippers have been performing and dancing on stage in the last 10 to 15 years. So what has caused the change from classic male stripping to the new school style of male stripping that we see today? Well, I've had a good long think about it, and I guess it really all changed when the film Magic Mike came out. That film really changed it for everybody dramatically. It changed how people saw male strippers. Prior to that, in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, most male strippers were using classical style dance moves. So I guess you could say these would be jazz style dance moves. Now I'm talking lots of spins, hitting, lots of strong poses, lots of finger pointing into the crowd, lots of personality, just a lot of classical jazz style dance moves. Now back then, there were some people that were dancing with a hip hop style dance, but it wasn't very popular at all. All the choreographers back then, choreographers for Chippendales, for Manpower, Thunder from Down Under, and all the other male reviews around the world, most of them were using jazz style choreography for the male review shows and inside the male strip clubs. It's all about having mad stage presence. Yeah, crazy stage presence. So it was all about using acrobatics in your show back then. Okay, classic male stripping was about the jazz dance moves, the strong poses, the personality, and it was all about, you know, big wow factor moves and things that can shock and awe. Now fast forward, okay, to the last 10-15 years, it's dramatically changed. Okay, so now we have guys that are using a completely different style of dance. We now use a more modern style of dance. We use hip hop, we use elements of popping and locking sometimes, we use a little bit of crump, and we can also even see lots of people nowadays even using basic breakdancing moves as well, which can be quite effective in a male strip show. Now, it's gotten a little different. So when Magic Mike came out, it changed the game. It introduced a new genre to the audience. It became less about the show and then more about the sex. It became more about sexual dance moves, more about going down onto the floor and incorporating floor work and just generally really turning up the heat, if you know what I mean. Now with classical male stripping, yes, it was like that to some degree, but the emphasis was definitely on the show, the performance. But now it's more about being sexy. It's more about turning women on. It's more about turning up the heat. It's more about hip hop. It's more about modern dance styles. And basically it's more about trying to replicate that atmosphere in the film Magic Mike. So it really did make a dramatic change with the male stripping industry in a big way. Especially with the second film coming out a few years after the first one, there was even more emphasis on the hip-hop dance style in that second film. Now, I'm not saying one style is better than the other, but a lot of you guys out there may not actually know there was an evolution in male stripping. So you can actually understand and appreciate different elements of performing from the different eras. And I think it's important to incorporate a nice balanced mix of it all. I think the old school style of performing, classic male stripping, it's good. It has its merits. It definitely teaches you about stage presence, about character and personality, which is super important. Now, one thing I see a lot of male strippers these days do that really annoys me is they get too involved in the new school style way of stripping. I think you need to do the new school method, but you need to incorporate elements of the classic male stripping within your performance. When you do that, I think you'll find you become very rounded as an entertainer and as a stripper. You become very complete. You're covering everything that you need to cover in terms of how you perform and how you need to please the audience. You're giving them a bit of show, a bit of character, a bit of flair, but you're also giving them the Magic Mike vibe. You're also giving them the hip-hop dance moves. So you've got to find a happy balance between the two worlds, and I think that becomes the optimal style of male stripping. Now, once again, it all depends on where you're working and what you're doing at that exact moment. So sometimes you might be suitable to just do new school stripping. If you're working in a club and you just want to get tips, then I'd suggest doing that. But if you're on a stage, then I think, and you're doing a performance, then I think you need to include a little bit of both. And we need to kind of master the best parts of each era and bring it together to bring a complete performance on stage. And that, if you do that, I guarantee you will be an absolute hit. The women will love you and you will look like an absolute fantastic male stripper, one of the best, guarantee it. But you've got to work hard on learning how to incorporate both styles of stripping. I think it's also worthwhile to note that male stripping is getting more and more popular every year. So in terms of a game plan for the future, I believe that the standard is going to get higher, and it's evident by looking at the fact that there is more and more male reviews now than ever before. Magic Mike Live is just taking off. There is Magic Mike Live shows in Berlin, London, Las Vegas, and one in Australia, I think 2 now as well. It's getting really big, and the standard is getting much higher. So in terms of a game plan for you guys, for you male strippers out there for the future, I would suggest investing in a skill set that you can also bring to your performances, whether that be high quality dancing or whether that be a circus act or acrobatic act, something that makes you stand out and makes you look more elite. And then I think you'll have much more of a longevity to your career if you invest in a skill set now. So anyway, that's my little lesson for you guys today on the history of male stripping, how it's changed over the years. It's changed from that whole classic style of jazz dance move to the new school style of hip hop dance moves. And personally, I think you do very well to learn about both.